Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Sadiq, and recently I picked up a Nintendo GameCube from eBay in order to do a ultimate AliExpress build. For this build, I made sure everything I picked up was from AliExpress, and everything didn't actually go to plan, as you will see in the video. The parts I picked up are as follows. Picoboot kit, which includes the SD to SP2 adapter, quick solder flex cable, thermal pads, SD to SP2 port cover. I didn't actually end up using this. Semi-transparent GameCube shell in white. A matching semi-transparent GameCube controller housing in white. A full set of white buttons for the GameCube controller. A Bitfunx HDMI adapter based on the GCVideo project. And finally, a LED mod kit. I'm going to use the white one, which also included a clock battery holder as well. I really wanted to get the iBlue control mod for the Nintendo GameCube. This allows connection of modern Bluetooth controllers. But when I was shopping for the parts, no one had it in stock. Maybe I'll have to make an update video on this. Let's begin with the shell replacement for the controller. The outside of the shell has 6 tri-wing screws. Taking them all out now. The shoulder buttons are held in by 4 screws, and the main board itself is not screwed in at all. I'm going to reuse all the rubber membranes for the buttons. I will need this metal springy piece from the Z button. Here I'm removing the 4 screws that hold in the shoulder buttons. There's a spring lever that's clipped into the plastic that needs to be removed, and a large spring. Same process for the right shoulder button. And the putting in the white ones is just the process in reverse. It's quite fiddly, but it does fall into place. All the spaces, it has a place for it to fit into. When the screws go in, it's very stiff, new plastic, cutting new threads, and it was really stiff. It's the same process for the left trigger as well, the left shoulder button. Here I'm putting in the springy piece for the Z trigger button. Now I'm putting in all the buttons for the front housing and also the rubber membranes, and before I put the rubber membranes in, I'll give them a bit of dusting, and the Z button. Here I'm just removing the joystick thumbsticks, and before I put the new ones on, I'll give it a bit of dusting. They're keyed, so they're only going in one direction or one orientation. If you see on the cable, there's a little bit that's a bit chewed up. So what I wanted to do was get the chewed up bit within the controller so it's not visible when it's closed. This was a bit of a pain because it didn't want to bend in the way I wanted it to. I did get it in the end. Just putting in the screws back in, 6 tri-wing screws. After putting it back all together, I realized that the sticks were really shallow, they were deep in the hole. So I basically took it apart again and put a piece of cocktail stick or wooden toothpick to raise it up a bit. What I did was just keep cutting it until it was a snug fit so it wouldn't move around. Yeah, and once I put those in, it was at a nice height. It looked more closer to the original thumbsticks. So that's the controller complete. Let's carry on. Alright, so before starting the mod or conversion on the console, preparing the Picoboot. So you need to download it from there, the GitHub, the Picoboot GitHub. I'll put the links in the description. So you want to have the file, and on the Raspberry Pi Pico itself, you want to hold down the button and connect it to USB. When you do this, it will connect as a USB flash drive, and all you have to do is copy the picoboot.uf2 file into it. This only should take a few seconds. Once it's complete, it will auto eject and there will be a green light and you can just pull it out. And that's already been programmed, ready to be installed. Okay, so to prepare the SD card, what you need to do is go to the GitHub for Swiss and you want to download the latest release. And you want to download the 7-zip version. And also you want a program called GUI format, so that you can format it to format your SD card to FAT32. So let's go ahead and do that. You can give it a label. Make sure you select the correct drive. You don't want to ruin your drive. And if you get this error, sometimes this comes up, and the way I fix it is by first formatting it with Windows, just with the default settings. Make sure it's the right one. Once that's happened, you can go back to GUI format, and that would be done. So you need to find your recently formatted SD card, and within the Swiss zip folder, you want the DOL file, which is this one, Swiss_r1664.dol, and copy it to there, to the root, and rename it to IPL. When you put IPL, that means that's the first thing that the Picoboot is going to look for to boot, so it will boot straight into Swiss. You can put any other programs in there, and that's your SD card is prepared. Now you should eject it so that you don't corrupt the files. And that's the SD card ready. Here I'm about to solder the Raspberry Pi Pico onto the quick solder flex. I didn't actually end up using it. I had to remove it because I think I may have received a faulty flex cable. On my testing, the GP pin 4 and 5 were shorted together, so I didn't even try turning it on in case I blew something up. But I'm showing this anyway because it should work. I think I may just have received a bad part because I couldn't find anywhere where I shorted it together. I'm showing it anyway, and I come back with flux to make the joints better. On one of the product reviews on AliExpress, one of the buyers said that this point needs to be closed or shorted together, but I can't confirm this because I ended up not using the flex cable. Here I'm tinning the points that will need to be soldered to the GameCube motherboard. Coming to the GameCube model I'm using, it is the DOL001. This has the SP2 port, serial port 2, and you need this if you can use the SD to SP2 adapter, and the flex cable will be different as well. So if you have the DOL101, you should not use this video. You need a 4.5mm game bit, 4 screws on the bottom, and the top will come straight up. The front controller ports clip off, and then there's a ribbon cable that you can just pull out. And there's a whole bunch of screws all around the DVD drive assembly. And the back plate also just clips off. There's like a million screws. So first we need to take off the fan assembly and disconnect the power lead coming to it from the power button. Basically, you just take all the screws you can see out. And the entire DVD assembly comes off as one piece. Here I'm taking off the memory card flaps. They're just clipped in. The springs on there, they're included in the new shell I'm going to put on. There's 6 screws holding in the heatsink for the CPU and the GPU. These screws, you'll see they're different. They have a washer in there. Keep them separate. And taking off the heatsink is a bit difficult sometimes because it's really stuck on with the thermal pads. Mine came off quite easily, but I've seen other people struggle a lot. And all the thermal pads are intact, so I can reuse them, so that's what I will do. I'm pulling the entire motherboard out. There's 2 screws holding down that shield. That needs to come out. And then the entire shield comes off in one piece. So now I'm just got the bottom part of the new shell, and I'm gonna just move everything over. Power supply part is screwed in with 4 screws. So I'm just basically taking every part out and just putting it into the new shell. Putting all the screws in, and then I put the motherboard back in. Here I'm showing how to do the flex cable, but I actually didn't end up using it because there was a fault on my flex cable. Pins 4 and 5 were shorted together and I couldn't figure out why. So I ended up wiring it with the individual wires. flex cable would have made it much easier and a cleaner job, as you can see. Here I'm doing it again. I took the flex cable off after I discovered the fault in there. I'm just using the diagram provided on the Picoboot website. Points are quite small, so it's quite fiddly. I wasn't very happy with this joint, but it did work. I'm just checking that I haven't bridged the points using the continuity mode on my multimeter. Just tidying up the wires and keeping them flat so they fit under the shield without too much trouble. After that I put it on, but I end up having to take it off again. I'm installing the fan in first because the Raspberry Pi will stick onto there in the corner. And here I've written down what colors I'm using. I put a bit of insulation tape at the bottom because there is a screw there. I later decided not to put the screw in, so I didn't actually need it, but it's there. So now I'm just cutting the wires as short as possible so that I can still open it up again if I need to, and just wiring them up using that diagram. Obviously the colors of the cables are not the same, but the main point is you need to see which GPIO pins are connected. Yeah, pin 6 and 7, they're connected together, so I just strip a little bit extra. Now it did work with this, but the problem I had was it wouldn't work when the GCVideo adapter was connected. When I would turn it on with the GCVideo connector on, it would boot as if the Picoboot is not installed at all. So I go back again to fix this after pulling my hair out searching for a solution. I did come across a forum where somebody had the same problem and they fixed it by connecting to a 5-volt pin and connecting that to the V bus pin on the Picoboot. Now, I'm not an expert or an engineer. I don't know if that is safe or not. So if someone knows, so I'm now going to put those screws back in again. So this is the 5-volt wire that I connected to the new point, and it's going to the V bus on the Raspberry Pi Pico. This is the sticky pad that came with the Picoboot kit, and now I'm gonna start on the controller ports board. I'm taking out the white LED, the original LED, and I'm going to be putting a white one in there. Bending the legs to match the original one. Cutting the legs off, the excess. I'm taking the battery out, and I'm going to put the battery holder in there. So in future it would be easier to replace the battery. I had to bend the legs inwards a bit for it to line up. It was very simple. This is the front part of the shell, and it goes in exactly as the original came out with 2 screws. I did put the memory card flaps in, but I couldn't find the recording. I don't know if the camera was running. And here I'm just putting in all the screws, and after I put all the screws in, connecting the controller ports board. And this is the rear ports cover. Goes in nice and easy. When putting the top on, it's recommended that you keep the lid open because it could potentially damage the door switch. The 4 game bit screws go into the bottom, and that's pretty much the console back together. Now the kit, the replacement shell did come with a new jewel for the lid and a bit of sticky tape, double-sided, and here I'm just lining it up to make it straight. This is the SD to SP2 adapter. If you read on there, it says this side face inside, so that writing should be facing toward the middle of the console. And it slips in there, it's kind of loose. This port cover, I thought it might be better, but it was so large and it would need a lot of trimming, so I didn't end up using it. These little rubber feet at the front of the case were a pain to get off. They were really tight in there, but you just got to push them out. Yeah, I'm cleaning them up a bit, and they go in very easily. Yeah, I'm just turning on to see the lights, and it turns on, the disc is spinning, so I can see that it's working. This is the GCVideo or the Bitfunx adapter, and it comes with a little bracket which clips in to give it a bit more support because it sticks out quite far. The GCVideo doesn't need external power. This is a memory card to, this is the GC to SD. You can load it from that, switch from that as well. So here I'm just connecting a HDMI cable, and it's time for the first boot. So all I have on there is a program called CleanRip, and this one lets you install any DVD game into the memory card. It takes about 25 minutes to half an hour to install one game. This is, I'm speeding it up. And now I'm taking the memory card out and I'm putting it in to the SD to SP2 adapter, and you can see that it boots up, and I have Minority Report installed, and it's gonna play now. The GCVideo comes with a remote control, and it has a lot of settings you can change in there. I don't really know exactly what all the settings do. Put it in the comments if you want to see more on that. Okay, so that was the installation, modding of the case, GCVideo, Picoboot, and a few other bits. Overall, I think the case was very good quality for the controller as well as the GameCube shell. Right, so if you like the video, give it a like. If you want to see more like this, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.